Set up, guys. Give me a second here. I'm a one-man show. Okay, my name is Moshe. I'm coming to you from Israel and the Galilee, where I've lived for many years. So I'm going to give you the perspective of what's really going on in the war to start with. And then I'm going to go into the Bible prophecy, actually reading the prophecies out of the King James Bible and interpreting the words here and there using Strong's Concordance and Lexicon to show you the actual meaning of the words. Okay? That's what we're going to do. So if you're the type of person that doesn't want to believe what your Bible says, and you want to believe what some guy calling himself a teacher, a pastor, or a prophet says instead, this is not for you. Okay? This is only for people that want to know what the Bible really says right out of the Bible. Okay? And I'm not some guy like Santa Claus that went down the chimney last night and changed your Bible. That's a joke. It doesn't exist. Okay? It's the things I'm going to show you, which are going to be clear beyond the shadow of a doubt, are going to be in gross, grievous contradiction with the Bible prophecy teachers, the pastors, the booksellers, the prophecy conference holders, and all of this. So if you don't want the truth of your Bible and you want to hear these people tickle your ears, you're wasting your time with me. Okay? I'm a Levite. I'm also a Cohen, which means I'm a descendant of Aaron. The Jewish people track this. When I was born, you have the 8th day to circumcise, and the rabbis don't want to take money when you dedicate your firstborn son, which I was, because they don't take from a Cohen. And then when I went to my father's funeral, I went to be a pallbearer, and the rabbi, the Orthodox rabbi, my parents were not saved, stopped me and said, no, I wouldn't do that if I were you. Okay? So this is handed down. That's how we know it. Okay? And when I was born in America, which was shortly after World War II, I'm old. I'm actually as old as Israel, if you're wondering. They would give the kids a Hebrew name and an English name because there was still a lot of fears from the Holocaust. Okay? So Moshe it is my given Hebrew name. All right? It's Moses in English, but we never used that. We always said Moshe. In English, you would say Moshe, I guess. That's transliteration. Okay. So let me, now that I set the stage, I'm also going to give you the blow-by-blow what's really going on here in Israel and what Biden's really doing to us, and it's ugly. Really ugly. And I have a word for you in America. Heads up. I mean, I seriously am telling you, heads up. Be careful. Things are going to happen there very soon. What do I mean? Days. As soon as we finish stopping Hamas from shooting the rockets, there's going to be a blow up around the world, predominantly in Europe, the Middle East, and America. And it'll probably spread into Canada and a few other countries, but the big crux of it's going to be America, Europe, and the Middle Eastern countries. Okay, now I'm going to give it to you straight. I'm not going to be telling you what Fox News and CNN and the prophecy teachers tell you. I'm going to tell you what's really going on. All right? Okay. Now I want to go into the chat and make sure we got sound and picture, which is always a good idea, right? I remember years ago doing a video and there was no sound, and I felt like an idiot, you know. Waiting for it to load up, make sure. Doing a video and there was no sound, and I felt like an idiot, you know. It's raining today, so it's cold. We're going from late fall into winter. Probably be another few days, and we'll be there. So I got to do a tiny bit of housekeeping in the chat. So you got to give me a moment or two. Not a long time. Actually, a pretty brief time. Growing quick. Okay. Since this is a Bible-believing site, we'll do our praise. There is no God like Jehovah. 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 There is no Messiah like Yeshua. 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 All right, now I'm going to start telling you what's really going on here in Israel. Okay? We're doing a very good job of winning the war. The IDF is truly dedicated, determined, brave, well-trained, well-equipped, etc. The Americans have given Israel a certain amount of weapons that's not really disclosed. They did give us 2 Iron Dome units with a bunch of Iron Dome missiles. That's an anti-aircraft defense weapon. Now you're hearing this bell maybe. And that means we're taking rockets or missiles someplace in Israel. I have this program to work throughout all Israel, not my area. If it was in my area, we would be hearing sirens, not in the phone or the iPad. They'd be coming from the street, and we haven't. I live in a rural area where there's nothing with nothing, so it'd be unlikely they would target us. I'll be back in a second. There'd be nothing to hit. I mean, some agriculture. Not much else. I mean, there's houses, but it'd be really difficult to get them. Sorry, I had to do something. Okay. There's going to be a breaking point with the Palestinians and the sympathizers for Hamas, Gaza, etc., around the world. And this breaking point is going to come in a matter of days. Okay? It's another rocket going off. So, there seemed to be a lull from about 11 something last night to about 8 something in the morning without any rockets. The other day we had a 15-hour lull in the south of Israel, which is where Gaza is, on rockets. It was yesterday, I believe. So they're getting more and more difficulties in getting the rockets out. I would say now we're probably up to at least 400, if not 500, tunnel entrances destroyed. Very curious, they got a tunnel entrance which is basically a vertical, 90-degree metal staircase, and it goes down depending, could be 30 or 100 feet depending how deep that particular tunnel area is. And they even have ropes on it, so I think if they need to come down fast, it's a rope about that thick. I've seen pictures. They just grab onto the rope, and manipulate with their feet and their hands and go down the rope pretty quick. Because going down a vertical ladder when you're 30, well, you're probably going to be, 30 to 90 feet up. You got to be careful because you can fall and die. So they're not going to just go, like you see pictures in the Navy ships. They go down a ladder from one deck to another, and they're going down 9 feet, 10 feet, 12 feet, Oh, that's highly survivable, Especially when you're not going to fall right from the top. Before you fall, you're probably going to be down 5 or 6 feet. So it's not a big deal. You could just jump, and make it. When we were kids, we used to jump off walls like idiots in New York, So that's one thing, So they go down these ladders fast. You see them hold on to the sides of the sides of the ladder, and they slide, and all of that. But not when you're going down, let's say 50 feet or 90 feet. You're going to be dead or really busted up when you hit. Now they're carrying stuff with them. They're carrying maybe missile launchers, maybe rockets, maybe guns, rifles. They got gear they're coming back with. So imagine they're going down a staircase that's about 12 feet wide, and the steps are about that far apart, and it's just metal. It looks like it's made out of something like rebar, but I don't think it's rebar. And they're going down. Oh, they can't go down that fast. We're getting missile attacks now somewhere. I can tell you where they're coming from. Give me a second. They're more than likely, they could be coming from 3 or 4 different places, but we'll know very quickly. Gaza envelope. Wait, what does this say in here? This doesn't look right. What am I looking at? It appears that they're going down towards Eilat. That somebody's trying to hit Eilat. I'll give you more details. No, sorry, that was an old. Disregard that. I didn't scroll down to the most recent. They're coming in from Lebanon, up near the Lebanese border. And that was just now. And then the one 3 minutes before was down by Gaza. So they're actually, there's another one just coming in. So apparently they're coordinating with Hezbollah and Hamas because they launched rockets at different parts of the country separated by 3 minutes. Now we just got another one, and that one's coming in up by the Lebanon border. And so Hezbollah is being active. At one point they launched about 20 missiles or rockets yesterday from Lebanon. See, it's very difficult when you're that close to knock them down with anti-missile systems because you don't have that much warning. Of course, they're right on the other side of the border. And we also saw another one come in Gaza area. Yeah, they're coordinating, you know, a little bit between Gaza and Hezbollah are working together. Okay, so you see what life is like here, and we're on day 40 something, you know. The IDF is trying to get rid of the missiles, but this whole Gaza is a den of terrorists, the whole stinking place. And we found out things we didn't know when we did the ground invasion. All the hospitals are terrorist beehives. Weapons stored inside the actual hospital. Terrorists actually stationed in the hospital. And underneath the hospital, command centers, large underground bunkers, tunnels, everything else. All the hospitals. So Hamas basically gets the hospital administrators to not evacuate all the hospital for as long as they possibly can hold out. Otherwise, they lose their game. Then the Israeli soldiers get in. Usually the hospital's about 6 floors. You know, a bunch of special forces go in, like on TV, and they go room to room. They check the ceiling if there's a crawl space. They check closets, under the bed, you know, everything, right? And we found missiles, rocket launchers, bullets, guns, mortar shell, everything in these hospitals. And we still have not blown the hospitals up, okay? While there's people in them. But what would be better for Israel is to just drop 3 or 4 bombs on the hospital and get rid of it. Then the hospital collapses on the underground tunnel and command center. If it doesn't collapse with 3 bombs, it will with 5 or 6, right? No problem. Collapses on the command center or the tunnel down there, and the tunnel is useless. It's not going to be able to support the weight of the collapsed hospital, and they're not going to be able to dig out. And that's it. But instead, we go in and we demolition them. Now, let me tell you a couple of things, all right? If America wasn't around to harass us and bother us, yet they did give us weapons. What America is here to do is provoke Iran so they can attack Iran. They need 2 justifications. Congress already gave them permission to do whatever is necessary to stop Iran from getting a nuclear weapon. Okay? That's the internal judicial situation in America that's already been resolved. Okay? They have that document. You can Google it. Okay? All right? That's history. It's a few weeks ago. Now they want the political, social stage to be set in their favor. America. So last night, 4 American bases were hit repeatedly by the militias controlled, funded, operated, and weaponized by Iran. 4. Now, don't think that Biden is sitting there with his crap coming out of his mouth. They all listen, all the political leaders around the world. It's good to listen what comes out of their mouth, but pay way more attention to their actions, not what they say. Okay? 74 warships here from 10 countries in the Middle East, including 2 American aircraft carrier groups, all kinds of submarines, hundreds of aircraft. Are you kidding me? This is not for Hamas. This is not for Hezbollah. This is for Iran. Iran just delivered to Russia in the last 30 days 300,000 artillery shells. That's roughly 1/3 artillery shells. What is Russia going to do with those? Is he going to use it on Ukraine? I doubt it. America is walking into a snare. It's in Isaiah 47. And the snare is kind of seen by Biden and the Pentagon, but they don't know what to do about it. That's the delusion and the confusion. They go into the Middle East, they get bogged down. This has already halfway happened. Then Russia attacks somebody like Poland or Romania, an easy mark for Russia. They're already loaded up troops and equipment in Kaliningrad, which is right by Poland, and Belarus. Poland is the country they bring NATO brings the weapons into for Ukraine. They fly into Poland. They're afraid to fly into Ukraine, I suppose, and then they deliver it by truck into Ukraine. Now, Ukraine is going to fall if the weapons flow gets cut off. It will fall. It'll take 2 to 4 weeks, I guess. Okay? That's an interesting development. They don't seem to want to be giving any more weapons to Ukraine because NATO, including America and the UK, which is also in NATO, and France, know that they might be facing Russia very shortly. C-17 planes continuing, as of yesterday, continuing to come into the UAE and Qatar. Now, this is the setup for the forward operating base. This is going to be soldiers and equipment. When they go and they hit Iran, they got to take out the go-fast boats. The aircraft carrier Dwight D. Eisenhower is in the Sea of Oman, which is near the entrance to the Persian Gulf. I would say definitely within workable flight distance to Iran from the fighter jets. At least the coastal area of Iran on the Persian Gulf, which is their focus point. They can't stop Iran by bombing. Look how many bombs Israel dropped on Gaza, and they're still shooting rockets to this day. Every day for 40-something days we've bombed them. And bombed them and bombed them and bombed them, and they're still, plus a lot of artillery, and they're still fighting. Tunnels. Iran has much bigger and better tunnels than Gaza. They could drive trucks around in their tunnels. Some of their facilities are 300 feet down. Even if you started using 4,000-pound bunker busters, it'll have no effect. They say, the analysts that I found on the internet say the 30,000-pound bombs that America has, and I don't know how many they have, won't go down 300 feet. When they get down to 300 feet, they have real thick reinforced concrete. I don't know how many feet thick it is. Let's assume it's 3 or 4 feet thick. That's strong. What if it's 8 or 9 feet? In like the Normandy invasion, the Germans built bunkers on the beachhead. Well, not on the sand. They went back a few hundred yards, you know. And some of these things were 6, 8, 9 feet thick concrete, reinforced concrete. They put the artillery piece inside this bunker, and they could push the barrel out or pull the barrel in or whatever. And they also put machine guns in there. They had I think they called it an 88. The Germans had really good squad machine guns, really good ones. They had a bipod on it, and it was belt fed, and it was probably in the range of 30 caliber, so it wasn't designed to penetrate armor. It was designed to mow down troops. So when they were landing on the beach, they were massacring the troops with these machine guns, which have a pretty long barrel. They probably had a 25-inch barrel or something like that, 2 feet anyway, I don't know, and it would have quite a range. So they probably had to shoot a good 300-400 yards to get them coming out of the water on the beach, and they were mowing them down. Then they had the artillery trying to get the ships. Oh, it was a real field day. And the battleships, before they landed, would bomb the beachhead area with their artillery. And they had several battleships there. The battleships in World War II had a 16-inch gun. That's the barrel of the gun is probably something like this, right? You could probably, a skinny kid, a teenager, could probably crawl in the thing. It was a 2,000-pound bomb that came out of this artillery piece. And they couldn't demolish these bunkers. Now, I guess if they got a direct hit, maybe they damaged them. And they bombed these places for days, yet when the troops landed, they were still mowed down by these bunkers. Now, they sent so many troops, and they had so much artillery, and they had so many aircraft dropping bombs and strafing, and they had tanks rolling up on the beach, that it was just a matter of time, you know, a day or so, or less than a day even, till they overtook the bunkers. They had flamethrowers to shoot in the bunkers. Now, mind you, American World War II issued flamethrowers to the soldiers to get into the bunkers because they had to have an opening for the artillery piece and the machine guns. And they would, at a distance off to the side, I suppose, they would spray their flaming napalm or whatever came out of the flamethrower into the bunker and burn them alive. You got that? Now, let me tell you what Israel could have done to save time and grief and everything else with the people in Gaza. It's a number of things. One is we could have gassed them. Okay? Chlorine gas. Cheap, easy. Just build it in barrels, drop it into all the openings of the place, and make it unusable for them. You'd have to put it in probably in 100 different places, but you would really devastate them. Okay? Number two, they got to have air. They're 90, 100 feet down. The air has to be coming in with something electric or diesel. Now, they could be running an electric line downstairs and having a fan from a vent on the surface, a big, like a 15 horsepower or a 10 horsepower fan that could really suck air and bring air in. At 90, 100 feet, you're not going to just create an opening and hope that you're going to get enough air. You got to have some sort of a blower. The blowers could be up on the surface, and they could be diesel or electric, but then they'd get taken out. So the IDF is not talking about that. They don't want the people to understand that there's a concept here that's not being exploited. Why, I can't tell you. They do have oxygen in the command centers in the tunnels. This is the leaders have oxygen. So like on a submarine in World War II, when the submarine had to stay submerged because destroyers were dropping depth charges, and then sometimes, most of the time, the destroyer would have to leave after a while. What's a while? Maybe 1 to 3 hours maximum. Because they were escorting merchant marine ships, carrying fuel, food, weapons, troops. So they had to stay close to the merchant marine ships. So they had destroyers to escort these boats. Now, what they would do is hang around and make it hard for the submarine to surface. Their sonar and would be listening for the submarine to turn their engines on and start moving, and then they would follow them. The idea would be to try to keep them down long enough where they ran out of air. So they had tricks in the submarines. They had these anti-CO2 devices that would remove the carbon dioxide from the submarine. That would give them a few hours. And then they had oxygen they could release in the submarine. That also would give them a few hours. But it got to a point where that was all she wrote, and then the guys had to decide if they were going to sit there and suffocate and just die. What happens is you get drowsy, tired, you close your eyes, you fall asleep, you never wake up. Or surface and either surrender, which would usually not work, because once the submarine surfaced, the destroyer would just start shelling it with artillery. And they had in a destroyer, there would be, probably at least 3 guns, if not 4 or 5. So they would train multiple artillery pieces on the submarine. And they also had guns like, heavy machine guns, and they would mow. The guys would have to come out on the deck, you figure, and they would try mowing them down. Now, I imagine there were many instances where they came up with a white flag and surrendered, and then they'd blow their submarine up so they couldn't see how the submarine worked, and things like that. I imagine that happened. With the Germans more so than the Japanese. The Japanese didn't have much respect for soldiers surrendering. They thought it was a loss of honor, and they were not very happy with that. So the moral of this story is when the submarine was running out of air, they said, what the heck, we got to take our chances, and they'd surface to either fight it out, because they had guns too. Some submarines had 1 artillery piece, some had 2. And they had machine guns. So they could surface, and the deck gunners could run out, and they were trained to get the gun ready really quick and start shooting at the destroyer, and they could possibly get the destroyer, unless the destroyer, which usually had bigger guns. The submarines would usually have a 5-inch gun, their big gun, and it would not have the range of an 8-inch gun, which destroyers would typically have. So the destroyer, if he was smart, could stay out of range of the submarine and hit him with the 8-inch gun. But there weren't radar-controlled guns, and the submarine is moving and there's waves. The destroyer is moving and there's waves. Usually they're zigzagging and making themselves hard to hit. So the destroyer would try to close distance, shelling them as it went. And if it didn't get them with the shelling, it would ram them with their much stronger hull. A lot of the destroyers had an armored hull to help with torpedoes, and they would crush the submarine. Now, the other side of the coin is when the guys got out of the submarine, they could just deploy their inflatable life rafts and jump into those and hope the Germans let him live and take him prisoner or just leave him there. A lot of times the Germans wouldn't take him prisoner, they'd just leave him there. Sometimes they'd machine gun him. It depended on how much of a lunatic the captain was and so forth. So when confronted with a loss of oxygen, they abandoned ship. The same thing would happen in Gaza. They would abandon ship. Why are we not hearing about that? What else could we do? You could take, let's say, 100 gasoline trucks. These are the big trucks that they use to put gas in the 7-Eleven gas stations and the filling stations. I think they have 10,000 gallons or something like that. You just take a lot of them, okay? And you go to, when we find the tunnel entrance, instead of blowing it up, you dump 10,000 gallons of gasoline down there. Then you call the Marlboro man to come flick his Marlboro down there while it's burning, and that's the end of that. And you'd have to do it in multiple locations, and you could do it all within 3 or 4 days. And they would pretty quickly get the idea they're going to die a horrific death, just like they did to our women and children and men in Gaza. They took women and their babies and their small children and tied them together with wire and burned them alive. They put them in cars and burned them alive. They burned the houses they couldn't get the people out of because they were in the safe room. So they torched the whole house to get them. They'll get you. Smoke, heat, whatever. All right? They burned our people alive. Now, if the 2 witnesses get launched on Hamas to shut it down, what do you think they're going to do? Fire from the mouth in the hole and burn them alive. So you could do it with gasoline trucks. Biden will go nuts. Ah, what are you doing? We're giving you weapons. You're burning them alive. Ah, you stupid Jews, you know. Hey, they did it to us. This is a year of recompenses. So we're going to pay them back. You reap what you sow. You think God would get mad? I don't think so. They're not shooting missiles at our military. They're shooting them at schools, houses, a hospital, anything they can hit. That's a war crime, but the UN won't do anything to them. Only us. Now, nobody's doing this because of Biden and the nations with their outcry. So now Biden has got, either he's the village idiot that can't find his way off the stage, or he's really a demented man. Or let's just call him a person. It's more accurate. Some of you know what I'm talking about. He is telling us that we should create a 2-state solution. That's the only way to get peace. These morons from America came over here and leaned on us in 2005, I think, to give Gaza back. And look what they did with it. They turned it into a military base, and we've suffered and suffered and suffered. And don't forget the curse of Israel. Netanyahu was in on that one. Don't you forget that. Watch that guy carefully. Pay precious little attention to what comes out of his mouth. All the media call him a liar. The other members of the Knesset call him a liar. Nobody believes him. Don't you? Forget what he says. It doesn't mean anything with him. He's a pathological liar. Okay? So, putting in the Palestinian Authority in some form to run Gaza, and he wants them to make a Palestinian state out of the West Bank and Gaza. This is Biden is trying to quietly get Israel to agree with him to give more land away, get God more and more mad and fed up with Israel, and lead to a slow death and destruction of Israel. They tried a rapid destruction of Israel in 1948 and the subsequent years following several times, and Israel kept winning. So they understand God is helping Israel. Okay? These are not godly men. These are people walking on the dark side, but they understand it, and the unclean spirits do, and they enlighten them probably. So they're not very interested in a big attack on Israel, because every time they tried that, God helped Israel. They don't understand Hosea 6, 1 and 2, that there's a 2,000-year punishment and it's just about over. They don't understand we're in the year of recompenses, which is also the same as the year of redemption. Unless it's not, but I'm pretty sure it is. And that's payback. That's not, the meaning of the word doesn't mean payback like you're going to get all the money and stuff they stole from you. It means they're going to, Jehovah has a controversy with the Goyim over Zion. Okay? That's what this is. All right? This is Jeremiah 30, verse 11 says specifically, God will destroy the nations he dispersed the Jews into. This could not have been in the past, because the Jews to this second are still dispersed, the Israelites are still dispersed around the world. So it can't happen until that's over, i.e. the second Exodus. And that's associated with the birth pangs. Jeremiah 30:11. Do your prophecy conference holders teach that? Do your pastor teach it? Does the guy selling you the books write about that? No. Not a one. It's in there. Jeremiah 30, verse 11. Maybe I should read it. For I am with thee, saith Jehovah, to save thee. This is speaking to Israel. Though I make a full end of all goyim, all heathen, it says nations, that's appropriate term, of all nations whither I have scattered thee, yet will I not make a full end of thee, but I will correct thee in measure, and will not leave thee altogether unpunished. Well, I know he's punished us. I suspect most of you have never seen or heard anybody talk about this, and it could not be fulfilled until the second Exodus, when all this is finished, when the Jews come back, the Israelites, the 10 tribes and the 2 tribes, Judah, come back to Israel. That's the only time it could be fulfilled. Okay? It's simple logic. United States, somebody posted something about Wagner Group. The United States says if Wagner Group shows up fighting against Israel, they're going to take it as the same thing as Russia fighting against Israel. Give me a second. If you read Jeremiah chapter 30, you will understand the severity of what is happening. Okay? It's serious. I mean, in the world, you in America are going to get it. But it's probably going to happen before the big war happens. Well, getting ahead of myself here. The daughter of Babylon is America. I don't know how many of you know that. Okay. I should go through some of the scriptures in Jeremiah 50 and 51. I'm not going to read the whole 2 chapters for the sake of time. I'm just going to highlight to you why it is America. The word Babylon never appears in the Hebrew text. The word Babel does. Babel means confusion in Hebrew. Now, more rockets. They're starting rumors that the word Hamas is used, I think, in Genesis 10. And it is the Hebrew word Hamas. It means evil. Hamas people don't speak Hebrew as their language, they speak Arabic. And the word Hamas in Arabic means strength. They did not name themselves in Hebrew. They hate the Israeli people. So this people that are spreading this rumor are crazy. Jeremiah 50 verse 4, in those days and in that time, this is the destruction of the daughter of Babylon, which is these days. Saith the Lord, the children of Israel shall come, they and the children of Judah. The children of Israel, the 10 tribes, the children of Judah is Judah and Levi. And the children of Judah together, going and weeping, they shall go and seek the Lord their God. They shall ask the way to Zion, which is Israel. It means parched place. It's pronounced Sion in Hebrew. With their faces thitherward, saying, come and let us join ourselves to Jehovah in a perpetual covenant that shall not be forgotten. So the second Exodus is going to happen before the destruction of America, because if it didn't happen before, then the Israelites and the Judahites would get killed in America. That's Bible logic. That's being a Bible lawyer. Okay, remember the Pharisees, Yeshua called them lawyers? Okay. You use the words of the scriptures as fact because the word has to come true. In verse 8 of Jeremiah 50, it says, remove out of the midst of Babel and go forth out of the land of the Chaldeans. The Chaldeans were basically fortune tellers, soothsayers, witch type people, witchcraft type, calling on unclean spirits, and be as the goats before the flock. The goats are more aggressive. For lo, I will raise up and cause to come up against Babel an assembly of great nations from the north country, and they shall set themselves in array against her from thence. She shall be taken. Their arrows shall be as of a mighty expert man. None shall return in vain. So they're going to surround the United States. On land and sea, I would expect. No, Chief. And Chaldea shall be a spoil. See, God couldn't say the United States of America, because if he said that, no country would ever call themselves the United States of America. Or if he called the country Ishkabibble land, no country would name themselves Ishkabibble land. Do you understand? So it has to be allegorical. No, Chief, stop it. And Chaldea shall be a spoil. All that spoil her shall be satisfied, saith Jehovah. It says, your mother shall be sore confounded. She that bare you shall be ashamed. Behold, the hindermost of the nations, that's the most recent, shall be a wilderness, a dry land, a desert. Then God only has 70 nations. The mother is the whore of Babylon, which is basically the same unclean spirits that were running the old Babylon, which was where Iraq is. And it goes on, because of the wrath of the Lord it shall not be inhabited, but it shall be wholly desolate. Every one that goeth by Babel shall be astonished and hiss at all her plagues. Shout against her round about. She hath given her hand. Now that means she surrendered. Now, can you imagine Biden surrendering? I can. Her foundations are fallen. Her walls are thrown down. The only walls that America has to speak of is the ones by Mexico. They got a couple of thousand miles, I guess. And the people in Mexico, immigrants or whatever, are going to knock it down. And they're going to come into America just like Hamas came into Israel the other day. You reap what you sow. Read between the lines. You reap what you sow. And they're going to rape the people. They're going to kill the people, rob the people, everything. Everything. Will some of them get shot coming in by people with guns? Probably. Some of Hamas got shot in Israel. There were soldiers and police that did a great job, and they killed quite a few of them, but didn't stop it. For it is the vengeance of Jehovah. Take vengeance upon her as she hath done, do unto her. Look what she just did to Israel. They were involved in this thing in Israel on October 7th from the ground up, in my opinion. It's too much coincidence. This is the provocation for them to try to work a snare on Iran and suck Iran into this fight. And then they got the cause to go after Iran. And basically, that's what's happened. I heard they're increasing the Social Security in America by 3.2% next year, while people are saying it should be at least 12%. See what a piece of garbage Biden is? Look who he picks on. People on disability, people on Social Security. He's a garbage bucket. It says, in those days and in that time, saith the Lord, the iniquity of Israel shall be sought for, and there shall be none, and the sins of Judah, and they shall not be found. For I will pardon them whom I reserve. Now, I know the church people don't teach that. How is the hammer of the whole earth cut asunder and broken? How is Babel become a desolation among the nations? Now, is Iran the hammer of the whole earth? Of course not. Only the Muslim nations, and even only some of those would listen to him. Is Russia the hammer of the whole earth? No. Is the Pope the hammer of the whole earth? No. Hindus, Buddhists, Muslims, Jewish, Christian will not, and Catholic will not listen to the Pope. Oh, the Catholics will, sorry. No one else will, including the communists. Is China the hammer of the whole earth? No, it can only be America, but I'll keep going with more proof. I have laid a snare for thee, and thou art also taken, O Babel, and thou wast not aware. Thou art found also caught, because thou hast striven against Jehovah. The United States gives money to Mahmoud Abbas, who runs the Palestinian Authority. Mahmoud Abbas runs a slave for pay program. This is Murder Incorporated from the Eliot Ness days, sort of, kind of. Not exactly, but I'll explain. If a terrorist going out and killing Jewish children, women, men, civilians gets killed, Mahmoud Abbas gives them over $1,000 a month, every month, for forever, as long as he's able to support the family. So these young kids, instead of starving in the West Bank or whatever, they go out and kill a Jew, and then they get killed, and they think they're going to be martyrs, and their family gets taken care of, and their memory is good. Hey, look what he did for us, right? And if they go to jail, they get money for their commissary fund every month, although one of our politicians cut that off, Ben Gvir. Okay? America gives the Palestinian Authority money knowing they do this slave for pay program. If the terrorist gets killed, the money goes to the family for as long as, supposedly for their lives. If the terrorist goes to jail, they still give the family the money while he's in jail. The United States gives them this money. Now, let me get into it deeper with you. There's a guy in our government called Smotrich. He's the economics minister. He's very right-wing. He wanted to stop the slave for pay, so he started taking 10% of the tax money we collect for the Palestinian Authority and turn it over to them. He would clip 10% and give it to the victims in Israel of terrorism. That's a slap shot. That's an insult to them. Big insult. It didn't help. Then he upped it to 20%. Didn't help. Then Blinken flies over here, goes and visits him, and gives him $50 million, washing it through the UNWRA, so he can keep the slave for pay program going. And at almost the same time, a few days apart, the EU Parliament allocates I think more than $50 million to the Palestinian Authority, they too knowing he does a slave for pay program. Now, you tell me why I should believe the European Union and the United States really like Israel. Yeah, put it in the chat. I like to hear this. You can verify everything I said in Google. Now Biden wants to make the Palestinian Authority in charge of not only Gaza, but the West Bank. What about the 500,000 Jews living in the West Bank? What about them? They could leave or they could get killed by the Palestinian authorities with the slave for pay. You're not going to get anywhere listening to the speeches these people make that are carefully prepared and their statements. You have to watch their actions. By their actions, America hates our stinking guts. Okay? I'll go look in the chat and see if anybody put up a rebuttal. I'd really like to hear about it. Why does Leviticus say don't eat pork? Pork in the Old Testament is listed as an unclean food. Swine. Let's look at Genesis 9:3. It's off topic, but I'll take the question anyway. Genesis 9:3. Every moving thing that liveth shall be meat for you, even as the green herb, as I have given you all things. Well, all I could say is, from reading this, every moving thing that liveth shall be meat for you. And I believe that Yeshua went back to this. Now, Genesis happened way before Moses was giving the law at Sinai. That was way down the road after that. So you have to understand that. But in Acts 10, when Peter goes up to the roof and he sees the sheep come down 3 times with the unclean animals, and the Lord tells him, don't call unclean what I have cleansed, Yeshua reverted back to that, because you can eat anything you want. Now, I strongly suggest you don't eat poison ivy. You got to have common sense, okay? And that's a plant. But you could eat any animal. So if you want to have alligator tail, go ahead. I ate it many years ago. I think it's very greasy, and I don't think it's a lot of nutrition, and I don't enjoy it. Where I live in Israel, it'd be rather difficult to get unclean food, except you can get shrimp and crab that the Arab supermarkets sell. I've never done it. You could. They'll also probably sell lobster, but I've never seen it. It'd probably be like, $93 to buy a nice lobster here in Israel. Food's so expensive, so I wouldn't. The Muslim people don't sell, the Arabs don't sell pork products. They won't eat pork. So occasionally we like to have bacon with eggs, so we get it made out of lamb, or we cut it ourselves, or beef. They call it, I think, in America, breakfast beef. So pretty much by definition, we're eating clean food here. Now, I prefer to get meat from non-kosher meat, because this whole business with the rabbis koshering things is not in the Bible whatsoever. It's the animal that would be clean and unclean, and that's head to tail. But Yeshua did away with that, so I mean, there's no reason. I mean, the whole rabbi concept is all wrong with them koshering the food. There's nothing like it. And they make the food taste like really bad. What they do is they water it down a lot, and then they salt it with big, thick granules of salt, which you might use to put on your sidewalk when there's ice and slush and stuff. And then they wash it, and then they do it a second time. So the meat has too much salt in it, and it gets tough from all this water and salt. So basically, it's a cruel joke on the people, I guess, because the food is tough and terrible. Now, if you get the black Angus or the Angus beef, which I believe is range fed, something close to organic or something, it's pretty good. Even though it's koshered, it's pretty good. And the prices are not that bad for that stuff. So that's a way to work around it. But if you go to the Arab supermarket, although that could be dangerous in these days, gotta watch that. They have the meat that's not been koshered, you know. But not very many Israelis would go there. When you go there, you see mostly Arabs, and you see people with UN uniforms on, military uniforms with the blue beret for the UN. You see people that work for various Christian ministries or Catholic ministries there. And you see very few Israelis. Very few. Mostly Arabs. Their prices are much lower because the rabbis pack the prices for koshering it. All right. Back to, I'll go back and check the chat and see if anything else came up. Cannabis? That's, I think, marijuana. Oh, cannibals. Sorry, I didn't read it. Say people taste like pork. Maybe that's why, or it has to be cooked well enough to be safe to eat because I don't know. That I don't understand. Cannibalism is definitely wrong. You don't want to eat humans. That I don't believe was ever allowed. Okay, that's not what Yeshua meant. There were no humans on the sheet coming down from heaven. I, in my past, have had some very off-the-wall food that I think is good. I've eaten shark several times. It's not my most favorite food, but when I lived in San Francisco, it was common to get shark, and it wasn't that expensive. And I ate shark, and it was not the greatest, but it was okay. I ate, what do they call it? Calamari. Usually it was fried, and that was usually very good. I used to go down to the fish store or go to Fisherman's Pier, Fisherman's Wharf, and go to some of these places that sold steamed crab, and they would give you the whole crab, and I would take it home and get a loaf of Bodine sourdough bread and heat it up maybe and put butter on it and smack open the crab and eat the crab. That was good. And then I've had, deer, elk, moose, buffalo, ostrich, frog's legs. Most of the stuff I ate before I was a believer, But I believe you can eat, according to the Bible, you can eat whatever you want. But again, you can't eat people. And you'd have to be a moron to want to eat poison ivy. I mean, you got to use your head, You could eat a rock, biblically, but why would you want to? You know what I'm saying? So there's no unclean food today. The law is real, and that's in effect, but Yeshua changed it. And he had the power to change it, and he did. Okay? He's the Lord of the Sabbath, and he could do it. So I wouldn't trouble yourself over the situation with clean and unclean food, but when in Rome, be like the Romans, so you just basically can eat what the Israelis eat, to a point. I don't like paying the extortion money the rabbis charge to kosher stuff, and I don't like the way it ruins the food. And even if you are going to follow the law, it's not in the law. It's a Talmud thing. It's extra biblical. Okay, let's go back to Jeremiah 50. So he sets a snare for Babylon. And I'm going to tell you what the snare is. China is lighting up the Pacific. Not yet lighting it up, threatening to, with Taiwan. Every morning they wake up in Taiwan. There's so many aircraft flying around, violating their airspace, and there's anywhere from 4 to 9 Chinese warships around Taiwan. Every day, I believe. Or most days. North and South Korea are very tense. South Korea wants to unify North Korea under them, and North Korea wants to unify South Korea under North Korea. Japan is dedicated to fighting China if they mess around with Taiwan or probably South Korea. Americans have 2 or 3 aircraft carrier groups there, plus 1 or 2 of the smaller aircraft carrier landing ships with expeditionary marines on it. So China is threatening Taiwan, and it's causing America to move a lot of military resources to the Pacific. Russia has been threatening NATO in Europe with Ukraine, so that's caused America to dedicate a lot of resources to that. Now Iran is threatening the American bases right now just in Iraq and Syria and attacking them multiple times every day. Iran a few days ago said they will expand their approach to this. So that means to me that they're going to start attacking other bases America has in the Middle East, which could be Jordan, Saudi Arabia, Kuwait, Bahrain, Qatar, UAE, and Oman. And what did I skip? That's about it. They haven't done that yet. They might not. The idea that China and Russia China attacks Taiwan, Japan, North Korea attacks South Korea. America can handle that. No problem. America will come out on top. Will they have losses? Oh yeah, but they'll still come out on top. With Russia, America and NATO could easily handle Russia. Can America and NATO handle Russia at the same time they have to cover the Pacific with North Korea and China attacking in the Pacific with possibly the help of Russia? Yeah, they can handle the NATO front and they can handle the Pacific front. But if you add in a Middle Eastern front against a country like Iran, which is highly resilient to bombings because they're underground, and they're making tremendous trouble for the United States, then the United States has to dedicate a substantial amount of resources to Iran. The experts say to do an invasion of Iran, which is what you're going to have to do because they're underground, it's going to be 600,000 to 800,000 soldiers. Now, they could raise, I would say, 100,000, maybe even 200,000 from NATO. That is the snare. America's got all these warships here. They're fighting Iran. The way the war will go in very brief, accelerated terms. You can go through my videos in the YouTube channel, which are going to be found in the live section, not the video section. And in the last week or maybe 8 or 9 days, I did a couple of analysis on the war of how America would fight Iran. I did research online and I studied it and all that, and they got to get rid of the go fast boats, so they sent 5 Coast Guard cutters here, and they're probably going to hunt down go fast boats, and those are disposable assets for the Navy because they're not capital ships. They're not worried about them. They worry about losing Arleigh Burke class destroyers. But somebody, I don't know, my Wi-Fi went offline and it's back now. Let's see who's still here with us, if anybody. Okay, we're back. I'm trying to see who's still here. But if you add in a Middle Eastern front against a country like Iran, which is highly resilient to bombing. All right, we got it back. I don't know what the heck that was. Apparently the Wi-Fi rebooted or something. Very suspicious. These things generally happen when I'm doing a broadcast. Not always, but all right. So I was in Jeremiah 50. Okay, so let's get back. I'm sorry about that. Let's get back into Jeremiah 50. So we covered how is the hammer of the whole earth cut asunder, and that could only be America. How is Babylon become a desolation among the nations? And then we said, I have laid a snare for thee, and thou art also taken, O Babel. And thou wast not aware. So I explained the snare to you is the trap for them in the Pacific, the trap for them in Europe with NATO and Russia and Ukraine, and the Middle East trap, not Hezbollah or Hamas, but Iran. Because to stop Iran, they can withdraw from the entire Middle East. What that would mean is pull their troops out of Kuwait. They keep 2,500 to 5,000 soldiers in Kuwait. They have some in Bahrain and Qatar, I think. They have 2,500 to 5,000 in the UAE, and they've got some in Saudi Arabia, but not a lot. But they have a lot of advisors with things like that there, and they're, now they've stockpiled equipment and soldiers in the UAE and in Qatar and in Jordan and a lot of equipment in Saudi Arabia. And they have a lot of bases around the Middle East. There's probably 25, 30 bases, or at least 20, and they're not going to fold and go home. The chances of Biden shutting the bases down and going home is zero. And that wouldn't stop Iran. It would just drive Iran on further. If Iran gets to run the Middle East, what happens is ships that Iran doesn't like do not get to move oil in or out or near the Persian Gulf. So that would knock out the UAE, Oman, Qatar, Bahrain, and Kuwait. And they would also control the Red Sea, and that would knock out more shipping. Now, not just shipping of oil, it would also be grain, container ships, cars, everything. If they didn't like you, you weren't going to move your ships through. They didn't like you and you put a ship there, they'd confiscate the boat, keep the cargo, make hostages or kidnap victims out of the crew, and things of this nature. Oil prices would be lucky if you only went to 200 a barrel. It'd probably go to 300. That means in America you'd be probably paying $10 a gallon. People could not go to work in America at $10 a gallon. There's a lot of people that burn 2 gallons, say 2-3 gallons in rush hour, coming and going. That's 30 gallons a week times 10. That's about $1,300 a month in gasoline. How many people can do that? There's somebody making $195,000 a year. Google doesn't care, yeah. But how many people can do it? Not many. They won't be able to go to work. The price of everything will soar. Everything you buy in the stores, socks, underwear, bread, milk, Gatorade, hamburger, plywood for the house, a hammer, nails, a drill, a tire. It moves by truck. The prices are going to go up a bunch. Probably 10%. Airplane tickets are going to become outrageous. Something you pay $300 round trip for, you'll probably pay $500, $450, maybe $700. I don't know. Food prices up, everything. Europe will collapse. They're already paying $9 a gallon for gas. Do you know that? It goes to 18 or 27, they can't go to work. Bus fares will increase. Ferry boats will increase. Postal charges, FedEx, UPS, DHL, all of those will start going up a lot. It nickel and dimes you all over the place, and it's going to eat your disposable income up. Unless you're somebody making more than $150,000 a year, then you're not going to care. Home heating oil. People in the Northeast will pay $1,800, $2,000 a month to heat their house. They'll have to walk around with, heavy sweaters and down jackets in the house, and they'll have to set the thermostat to maybe 60 degrees inside the house, or 62. So it'll be cold in the house, and the heating bill will be lower than if they try to set it to 70 degrees or something like that. But still, if it's 20 degrees outside and you're trying to keep it at 60, 62, you're going to save 10, 15% if you take it down from 70, that's all. That's all you're going to save. People aren't going to want to use their car for any reason unless they have to. Gold will go up. They're trying to suppress gold to keep it under 2,000. And Once something breaks loose, they can't stop it. All right, so that's the snare. And America is walked into it. They have lots of assets in NATO and Ukraine, giving them weapons in Europe. They have lots and lots of assets in the Pacific. And now they have lots and lots in the Middle East. Now, will Russia and China just attack America? I don't think so. I think they're going to drag them into the fights in these three theaters and weaken America. Destruction of military equipment of various sorts, planes, boats, missiles. The using up of these resources, military resources, and weaken America pretty good. Russia, China are going to make sure the fighting is off their home turf. Okay, so Russia will probably hit countries like Poland, Moldova, Norway, Finland, Denmark, Lithuania, Latvia, places like that, bringing back the old USSR geography. And China will attack Taiwan, Japan will start the fight, North Korea will hit South Korea, and the United States will be sending troops all over the world. And the idea is probably to kill their troops, kill their Navy ships, kill their planes, kill their missiles in locations in other parts of the world, but not homeland China, homeland Russia. The kingpin players of this snare that are going to get rid of America is China and Russia. They're the ones that suffered tremendously on sanctions. Now, North Korea is not a first tier player, he's second tier, just like Iran. Okay? So it's okay to have the fights on their turf. All right? Iran and North Korea have also been devastated by sanctions. Okay? Their back is to the wall. BRICS didn't work out for them. They don't have their own SWIFT banking network. It's not going well for them. They're desperate. They don't want to be destroyed economically because that's going to bring in civil unrest and everything else. So they're setting a snare for America. And there might be something coming after Iran. For instance, they might light up the Panama Canal. Russia and Iran and China have resources in Nicaragua, which is very, very close to Panama. Panama has no military. Panama uses the US dollar as their currency. Panama has a police department that's pretty much a joke. China and Russia and Iran could take over Panama inside of 8 hours, 6 hours. They'd have the whole government. They go to Panama City and just occupy all the government offices, and police are just a harassment. They're not worried about them. That's it. Then they don't let people go through the Panama Canal unless you're a friend of Russia, China, Iran, and North Korea. That makes it an extra 2 weeks, 10 to 14 days around South America for the ships, and with the rising prices of fuel, that's going to be very expensive. The cargo sits on the boat an extra 2 weeks. The crew gets paid an extra 2 weeks. The ship is tied up for an extra 2 weeks, and so forth. One day invasion. There's one day they have it. Nothing to it. They're going to suck America in, run her resources down, kill her military, and then they're going to go attack the homeland, which is what we read about. And they'll come in from the north, which means probably China, North Korea, and Russia will go in through the Bering Straits, which is about 20-something or 40-something miles from Russia. Sometimes it freezes solid and you could drive across it, although I wouldn't put a tank on it. Other years it doesn't, but it's a very quick crossing. They come into Alaska, they fight their way into Alaska, which wouldn't be hard. They drop down through Canada. Trudeau would probably hug them. And then they drop in from the northern border into America. Then they also come from the Pacific, probably China. And Russia comes in from the east. And Mexico will probably be dragged into this. The terrorist groups are very close with the drug cartels. They sell drugs together, they supply the cartels with drugs, opium and stuff. They sell weapons to the cartels, and they get along quite well. So the cartels will probably be the ones knocking down the American walls by Mexico and storming in and behaving the way Hamas behaved. I've seen videos of cartels capture people, and the people they capture just begging them. They know they're going to die, and they're just begging them not to torture them. They do things like put them in an oil drum with fuel and ignite them. They amputate body parts slowly, piece by piece. They do all kinds of horrific things. So these people were just, pleading with them to just kill them quickly, like shoot me, They were naked in the video. They didn't care about that anymore. They were just trying to go out peacefully. And these people are like Hamas. Okay, they are. America is going to reap what she sowed. And let's go back and get some more definers to establish that this is America here, not beyond the shadow of a doubt. All right. Therefore, Jeremiah 50:30. Therefore shall all her young men fall in the streets, and all her men of war shall be cut off. Now, if you know people in the military, you should explain this to them, because the entire military is going to be destroyed. The American military. In that day, saith the Lord. There's going to be a big army coming. Behold, I am against thee, O thou most proud. Is America the most proud country in the world? You bet. Saith Adonai Yehovah of armies, for thy day is come, the time that I will visit thee. And that's a bad thing. And the most proud shall stumble and fall, and none shall raise him up. And I will kindle a fire in his cities, and it shall devour all round about him. Now, this fire could be started by the sleeper agents inside America now that everybody's pretty convinced of They can build their own rocket launchers inside America like they do in Gaza and launch rockets, so cause fires. They could use incendiary balloons. They can just do good old arson, or this may come from another source, but expect it. Thus saith, verse 33, thus saith the Lord of hosts, the children of Israel and the children of Judah were oppressed together, and all that took them captives held them fast. They refused to let them go. Now, this could be something that's going to happen when the two witnesses do Zechariah 12. The nations are not going to let the Jews come back on the second Exodus, and the two witnesses will have to go and encourage the nations to not only let them go, but to send them out with wealth and riches. Their Redeemer, so think ye of redemption, like a good Bible lawyer, is strong. Jehovah of hosts is his name. He shall, it means armies, not hosts. He shall thoroughly plead their cause, that he may give rest to the land and disquiet the inhabitants of Babel. Rest to the land of Israel. A sword is upon the Chaldeans, saith the Lord, and upon the inhabitants of Babel, and upon their princes and upon their wise men. These are the espot industrialists, the rich ones, the government people, and all that. A sword is upon their horses, and upon chariots, and upon all the mingled people that are in the midst of her. Have you not heard America being called the melting pot? Mingled people, same words, tied, same meanings. Melting pot. This is America. I'm going to keep pointing more things out to you. A drought is upon her waters. I don't think we've really seen this yet. They shall be dried up. As God overthrew Sodom and Gomorrah and the neighbor cities thereof, saith Jehovah, so shall no man abide there, neither shall any son of man dwell therein. So Sodom and Gomorrah got burned up by fire and brimstone. Remember, he says there'll be fires in and about the cities. Okay, it's going to be fire. And then we see in verse 43 of Jeremiah 50, the king of Babel hath heard the report of them, and his hands waxed feeble. Anguish took hold of him, and pangs as of a woman in travail. Behold, he shall come up like a lion. Let's keep going. Be in Jeremiah 51 now. Jeremiah 51:5. For Israel hath not been forsaken, nor Judah of his God, of Jehovah of armies, though their land was filled with sin against the Holy One of Israel. God stopped up their ears and closed their eyes. He did it for this 2,000-year period found in Hosea 6:1 and 2, so they would not turn to him and get healed. So the punishment ran to its fullest. Guess what? Time's up. Now it's payback to the enemies of Israel, which are God's enemies. Jeremiah 51:6. Flee out of the midst of Babel and deliver every man his soul. Be not cut off in her iniquity, for this is the time of the Lord's vengeance. He will render unto her a recompense. Be a Bible lawyer. Recompense, year of recompenses. Now, Babel hath been a golden cup in the Lord's hand that made all the earth drunken. The nations have drunken of her wine, therefore the nations are mad. Verse 8, pay close attention. Babylon is suddenly fallen and destroyed. Suddenly. Howl for her, take balm for her pain, if so be she may be healed. We would have healed Babel, but she is not healed. Forsake her, and let us go every one into his own country. For her judgment reacheth unto heaven, and is lifted up even to the skies. So the workers that are there for jobs from India, from China, from Russia, from Caribbean, whatever, they're all going to Mexico. They're going to go home to their own country. The believers are going to go to Israel with the Israelites. They'll have to stop in the wilderness, according to Ezekiel 20, starting in verse 33, and pass under the rod and enter into the bond of the covenant, then they'll come into Israel. The Lord hath brought forth our righteousness. Come and let us declare in Zion the work of the Lord our God. Now this is a dead giveaway. Jeremiah 51:13. O thou that dwellest upon many waters, abundant in treasures, thine end is come, and the treasure of thy the measure of thy covetousness. Many waters. Let's talk about America's many waters. 8,000 rivers, probably about the same amount of it. Lakes, thousands of lakes, including the Great Lakes, which are just about like oceans. You have the Atlantic, you have the Pacific, and you have the Gulf of Mexico. Let's look at the other popular candidates for being the daughter of Babylon by the false booksellers. They say Mecca. Mecca's in the desert. What is this many waters? Medina, that's also in Saudi Arabia in the desert. Where's that coming from? The Vatican, they don't have many waters. They got fountains for the decorations to squirt water. They have toilets, water fountains. They probably have 100 bottles of holy water. That's not holy. It's unholy. And, that's it. They don't have any water. They're not on water. Okay? It goes on in Jeremiah 51:19. The portion of Yaakov, Jacob, is not like them. For he is the former of all things, and Israel is the rod of his inheritance. Jehovah of armies is his name. Thou art my battle axe, speaking to Israel. Read Zechariah 12. We'll fight. And weapons of war. For with thee will I break in pieces the nations, and with thee will I destroy kingdoms. Okay. And I will render unto Babel and to all the inhabitants of Chaldea all their evil that they have done in Zion in your sight, saith Jehovah. You know, Biden went and visited, Biden invited Netanyahu to visit him about 2 weeks before the October 7th massacre. Previously, he didn't want Netanyahu coming to see him. Behold, and it says, their evil that they have done in Zion in your sight. Behold, I am against thee. Oh, when it says in your sight, it's not something from the past. It's so bad there, Jeremiah 51:30. The mighty men of Babel have forborne to fight. They have remained in their holds. Their might hath failed. They became as women. They have burned her dwelling places. Her bars are broken. Burned their dwelling places. This is exactly what they were doing on October 7th in the south of Israel when they invaded us. When miraculously all of our defense and guards were gone, nobody was watching the surveillance cameras, apparently. Nobody was on post watching them. The sensors weren't being monitored. I mean, I was sitting outside watching the missiles come in nonstop for 3 or 4 hours before the first airplane did anything. Usually, the airplanes are attacking in moments. I mean, it might take, I could see 20 minutes sometimes, but not 3 or 4 hours. People in the South usually get help in minutes when there's an invasion. They didn't get help for 7 or 8 hours. They have burned our dwelling places. Golly gee, that sounds like a report you saw, because that's what they did to us. Our bars are broken. They did that to us too. How interesting. Verse 35, Jeremiah 51, verse 35. The violence done to me and to my flesh be upon Babel. Shall the inhabitants of Zion say, And my blood upon the inhabitants of Chaldea shall Jerusalem say. America may do many more bad things to us before this is over. Therefore, thus saith Jehovah, behold, I will plead thy cause and take vengeance for thee, and I will dry up her sea and make her springs dry. Jeremiah 51:39, in their heat, think orgy parties, I will make their feasts, and I will make them drunken, that they may rejoice and sleep a perpetual sleep, and not wake, saith Jehovah. I will bring them down like lambs in the slaughter, like rams with the he-goats. How is Sheshach taken? How is the praise of the whole earth surprised? Sheshach is one of the unclean spirits from the old Babylon. It's just saying the same thing. How has Babylon become an astonishment among the nations? And listen to this. The sea is come up upon Babel. She is covered with the multitude of the waves thereof. That means you have waves across the whole United States. There must be some pretty big waves. I'm thinking hundreds of feet. And I will punish Bel in Babylon. That's another unclean spirit from the original Babylon. And I will bring forth out of her mouth that which he hath swallowed up. And the nations shall not flow together any more unto him. Yea, the wall of Babel shall fall down. The wall is the walls between Mexico. And the nations not flow together anymore. And I'm going to tell you exactly why this has to be America. Where does the UN meet? In New York City. I think it's 54th Street by the East River. That's where they all meet. I've been there. My people, go ye out of the midst of her, and deliver you every man his soul from the fierce anger of Jehovah. Now the church people are not going to go. Why? Because they think the church is really a real church, even though they break the scriptures all over the place. And they think you can't tell them about breaking the scriptures. They don't care. And they think America is the holy land because it's got all these churches in it, and they're not going to leave. They're going to keep sitting there reading the scripture, he shall deliver you from the wrath to come, thinking that means they're going to get sucked up into heaven and wave bye-bye. It's just nonsense. It's nonsense. They're going to sit there. And in verse 46, and lest your heart faint, and you fear for the rumor that shall be heard in the land. The rumor shall come 1 year, and after that in another year shall come a rumor, and violence in the land, ruler against ruler. Now I heard the Congress is getting really, this was this morning, really peeved at Biden for what happened with the open border, and it's costing them already $500 billion approximately. And these people come into the United States and they're not there to work, and they're just a drain on the economy. And the working people have it so bad, and Biden doesn't care. And they're going to start fighting in their government. I would say any day or any week now, there's going to be fighting. When the sleeper agents get turned loose in America, the fighting is going to flare up immediately. Okay. Verse 47, Jeremiah 51. Therefore, behold, the days come that I will do judgment upon the graven images of Babel, and her whole land shall be confounded, and all her slain shall fall in the midst of her. Then the heaven and the earth and all that is therein shall sing for Babel, for the spoilers shall come unto her from the north, saith Jehovah. As Babel has caused the slain of Israel to fall. This is present times. Okay? Netanyahu all of a sudden went to see Biden about 2 weeks before the massacre. So at Babel shall fall the slain of all the earth. You that have escaped the sword, that's the ruler fighting ruler. Nobody escapes the invasion. Go away, stand not still. Remember Jehovah afar off, and let Jerusalem come into your mind. I think I made my point. Now it talks about graven images, mad upon a graven images. I'm not going to go through a whole thing like that, like I've done several times, but I'll show you one or two. The Statue of Liberty is a graven image, for one thing. It's three-dimensional image. It's in the Ten Commandments. Okay. Here's your Supreme Court building in the United States. Look at the Tiffium, that triangle at the top. It's called the Tiffium. You see three-dimensional graven images there? You don't know who the heck these people are from a hole in the head. That's your Supreme Court. It's built like a Roman or a Greek temple with the pillars. Supreme Court is a temple to unclean spirits. That's what that is. Okay? I'll show you what a Roman temple and a Greek temple looks like. This is an old Roman temple restored. They don't have the statues in the Tiffium, the triangle up there anymore. They don't know what they were. But you can see it's exactly built like the Supreme Court. Okay? and that is mad over her idols. There's the Supreme Court. It's the same thing as a Roman temple. Now let's look at a Greek temple. There's a Greek temple. You could see the little guys in the Tiffium, the triangle at the top, three-dimensional graven images. It's the same thing as the Supreme Court building. These temples designate it being a temple. These pillars are what causes it to be the temple. Okay? Oh, golly gee, look at the White House. It's got the pillars and the Tiffium, the triangle at the top, just like a Greek and Roman temple. Oh, gee, I wonder who they worship in there. You know how they say money? Uh-huh, you heard that, right? Well, let me bring it to life for you. I'll get it up, a good picture in a second. Here you go. This is number 11 Wall Street. I worked there in a summer job once as a page. This is the New York Stock Exchange. It has the pillars, the Tiffium, the triangle, and the little images up there. This is a Roman or a Greek temple called the New York Stock Exchange, worshiping the old schmuck gods that never existed, I guess, like Zeus and people like that. I know with things like that, they're mythological. They don't really exist. Okay? You with me so far? We'll give you another one. I want to get a good, clear image for you. It's not so simple. Oh, I'm looking for a clear one. Oh, here's one that's pretty good. This is the fountain outside the United States Library of Congress in Washington, D.C. And that character in the graven image is Neptune, the god of the sea. It's called the Neptune Fountain, and of course the jerk is naked. Now you heard about them saying that the government are all pedophiliacs and stuff like that, right? And you probably never really saw it illustrated clear as day how bad they really are. I'm trying to find you a good image here. It'll take a minute. Um, what I'm going to show you now is the statue, the National Boy Scouts of America statue in Washington, D.C. Look at the naked man walking with his boy. Does that look normal to you? Do you do that with your children? And look at the woman, kind of nondescript, kind of ugly, stuff like that, right? And the kid wearing his uniform. Why is this guy walking around naked? You know, Did you understand how sick they are now? God does not call her the daughter of Babylon for nothing. I'll go one level deeper with you. This is Columbia Motion Pictures logo. It says Columbia. We have a flat-chested individual looking more to be a woman than a man, but the flat-chested makes me concerned. Why? On a pedestal, raised up high, holding some book or something, and holding the light up. Come to the light. Right? Now remember the Columbia thing. Oh, she doesn't hold the book here. No, that's not holding a book. Now, let me show you the same person represented in another graven image monument. Here it is again. Flat-chested female type. There's the pillars, making it out to be a temple. There's no Tiffium in there. Elevated up high, holding some book. I don't know what it is, the Book of the Masons or something. Holding the light. Come to me, O you oppressed, and all that. Okay? Now, it's the same thing as Columbia Motion Pictures. We're not idiots. What is the capital of the United States? Washington, D.C. Oh. What does it stand for? Washington, District of Columbia. Columbia is some demonic idol they've created. That's the capital. It's not part of the United States. I mean, it is and it isn't. It's not a member of any of the 50 states. It's its own thing, yet it's not a state. It's a city, and it's administered by Congress. So it's a city. So where do we read about this city in the Bible? Well, I'll show you. We go to Revelation 17, verse 1. And there came one of the seven angels which had these seven vials, and talked with me, saying unto me, Come hither, I will show unto thee the judgment of the great whore that sitteth upon many waters. Many waters is many peoples, with whom the kings of the earth have committed fornication. Remember, the Lord said it was daughter of Babylon was a golden cup in his hand, and got all the nations to commit fornication. Okay, same thing. And the inhabitants of the earth have been made drunk with the wine of her fornication. The fornication here is worshiping false gods. So he carried me away in the spirit into the wilderness, and I saw the woman sit upon a scarlet-colored beast. Now, that's the beast that comes up out of the pit, and not Satan. And the sitting on the beast means she dominates, or the beast is serving her. Scarlet-colored beast, full of names of blasphemy, having 7 heads and 10 horns. And the woman was arrayed in purple and scarlet color, and decked with gold and precious stones. America's rich for the rich. And pearls, having a golden cup in her hand. That's the gold. The Lord said she was a golden cup, in the hand of the Lord. There it is again. It's the same thing. I don't want to spend a lot of time. We'll just drop down to the bottom of Revelation 17, verse 18. And it says, "And the woman which thou sawest is that great city, which reigneth over the kings of the earth." That great city with the woman is Washington, D.C., Washington, District of Columbia. It's on a silver platter. You can take it. Now, does the beast, the churches teach you crap. Does the beast set up in the temple of Jerusalem? They teach you that. There's probably 1 million churchgoers that believe that, or 2 million, or billions. Probably billions, not millions, billions. All I'm doing is giving you the scriptures, guys. Revelation 13:1. "And I stood upon the sand of the sea, and saw a beast rise up out of the sea, having 7 heads and 10 horns, and upon his horns 10 crowns, and upon his head the name of blasphemy." Same beast that the whore was riding on, Washington, D.C. But when you read Revelation 17, the beast burns the whore. They burn the whore and eat her flesh. Burn. Remember I told you the fires in the daughter of Babylon, in and around her cities? Burn. "And the beast which I saw was like unto a leopard, and his feet were as the feet of a bear." This is just describing allegorically or symbolically his attributes. And not his attributes physically, but how he will behave. "As the mouth of a lion, and the dragon gave him his power." The dragon is Satan. So Satan gives him his power and his seat and great authority. So Satan gives the beast his seat, his power, and authority. Now, they teach you that this is going to happen in Jerusalem. What does your Bible teach you? Does your Bible make them into liars? Yeah, I'll show you. Revelation 2, verse 12. "And to the angel of the church in Pergamos write these things, saith he which hath the sharp sword with 2 edges. I know thy works, and where thou dwellest, even where Satan's seat is." So have I just made all these pastors and prophecy guys and false prophets and false teachers and false pastors liars? I just did. Did I do it, or the Bible did it? The Bible did it. He has to be where Satan's seat is, which is in Pergamos. There's no city called Pergamos in Israel, and never will be. And in some translations mess it up and call it Pergamum, which is not the case. It's Pergamos. But there's not even a Pergamum in Israel, nor will there ever be. So it can't be in Israel. So they're teaching you pure crap to turn you away from Israel, so you don't realize you are, as a believer in Yeshua, in Israel. He is from Judah. He's a Jew. He is the king of Israel. He is the high priest in the order of Melchizedek, and he refers to the believers as his brethren. And you're going to tell me you stand with the church, not in Israel? All Israel shall be saved. Go find me a scripture that says the church will be saved. You won't. It's not there. "I know thy works, and where thou dwellest, even where Satan's seat is, and thou holdest fast my name, and hast not denied my faith, even in those days, wherein Antipas was my faithful martyr, who was slain among you, where Satan dwelleth." So for Satan to give the beast his seat and his power and authority, the beast has to be where Satan's seat is and get the power and authority, which is in Pergamos. That's what your Bible tells you. You can reject knowledge, and you will be rejected. you can run around and tell people incorrect information that the beast is going to set up shop in Israel, and that is sick. You need to repent of going to these church places and listening to them. You could be in the church without ever going there on a Sunday, just listening to them on the internet and buying their books and going to their jackass prophecy conferences and everything else where they sell you seats. The scripture says, freely you have received, freely you shall give, and they sell seats. Is that scriptural to you? You ask, why am I the only one teaching this? I've got a scripture for that too. One you're not going to like. You're not going to hate it, but you're not going to like it. And if I don't show it to you, I'm not doing my job. So I show it to you, and then I get resentment from people. But I will show it to you. As I told you, I'm born a Levite and also a Cohen, a priest, a descendant of Aaron. Okay? Now I'm going to show you why I'm showing you this stuff and nobody else is. I'm filled with the Holy Spirit, by the way. Pray in tongues, everything. Okay. You got to go to Malachi 2, and you can get offended if you want, but ask yourself, would it be better if I didn't teach you this or if I did? And now, O ye Kohanim, or priests, this commandment is for you. That would include me. If you will not hear, and if you will not lay to heart to give glory unto my name, I did that when we opened, saith Jehovah of armies, I will even send a curse upon you, and I will curse your blessings. Yea, I have cursed them already, because you do not lay it to heart. Behold, I will corrupt your seed, and spread dung upon your faces, even the dung of your solemn feasts, and one shall take you away with it. And you shall know that I have sent this commandment unto you, that my covenant, it says covenant. The word is 1285, is Brit. Like Brit Hadashah is new covenant. Hadashah is new. I have sent this covenant, this commandment unto you, that my covenant might be with Levi, saith the Lord of hosts. So did your churches ever tell you that the Lord has a covenant with Levi? Now the Levites have gone away and they've fallen away, but what about me? I haven't. I'm right with the Lord, I believe. So does the covenant apply to me? It doesn't say God canceled it. The people canceled it by sinning. So the covenant's still there. Just like the land covenant is there, it's going to come. But this is not future for me. This is now. My covenant was with him of life and peace. And I gave them to him for the fear wherewith he feared me, and was afraid before my name. The law of truth was in his mouth. Is that not what I've been giving you today? And lawlessness was not found in his lips. I explained the pork and the unclean food to you today. He walketh with me in peace, I like to think so, and equity, and did turn many away from lawlessness. There's many of my subscribers that'll tell you that. For the priest, or the Kohanim, the priest's lips should keep knowledge, and they should seek the law at his mouth. For he is the messenger, or the Malach, as in Malachi, messenger of Jehovah of hosts. That's why. You don't like it? I'm sorry, but still, that's why. Should I conceal this from you? Is that smart? Is that me being a good steward? Is that you seeking the law at my mouth? No, it's your problem that you're not going to like this. It's your problem. Now, where does that stand with all these jackass false teachers around the world that are not Kohanim and they're not in Israel? Is it important to be in Israel? Well, does the Bible say the law or the word of the Lord is going to go out from the nations into Israel, or it goes from Israel to the nations? Of course it goes from Israel to the nations. What do you think I'm doing? I'm in the Galilee physically. Have you not read about the Galilee in your Bible? Let's see. Was there any famous man in the Bible that spent a lot of time here in the Galilee? Oh yeah, his name is Yeshua HaMashiach. Oh, and a bunch of apostles too. Oh gee, how about that? Now let's talk about accept. Where does God accept you? Does it say that in the Bible? Well, the schmuck pastors will never teach it to you, but I will. Right now. Ezekiel 20, verse 33, the second Exodus. As I live, saith Adonai Jehovah, surely with a mighty hand and with a stretched out arm and with fury poured out will I rule over you. Speaking about Israel to Israel. And I will bring you out from the people, that's the second Exodus, and will gather you out of the countries wherein ye are scattered. And these are the countries that he is going to destroy in Jeremiah 30:11, and I reckon that to be about 125 countries. All of Europe, all of North America, Central America, South America, the Caribbean, the whole Middle East, and parts of Africa and parts of Asia. Okay? And God's word must come true. Israel is the safest place in the world to be, but it doesn't look like that. I will gather you out of the countries wherein you are scattered. It's only safe for believers, by the way. Wherein ye are scattered with a mighty hand and a stretched out arm and with fury poured out. I guess it's going to be just like Jeremiah 50. They're not going to want to let them go. Who's going to be doing this? The two witnesses. And I will bring you into the wilderness of the people, and there will I plead with you. It doesn't say plead. It's judge. It's twisted. I will judge you face to face, like as I judged with your fathers in the wilderness of the land of Egypt, so will I judge with you, saith Jehovah, saith Adonai Jehovah. And I will cause you to pass under the rod, and I will bring you into the bond. Sorry, you got a network problem. I'll start again. In Ezekiel 20, verse 38, and I will purge out from among you the rebels and them that transgress against me, and I will bring them out of the country where they sojourn, and they shall not enter into the land of Israel. You shall know that I am Jehovah. Now, that applies to the Israelites. The true believers will come with Israel also, and they won't have this problem because they're not going to start calling on unclean spirits and stealing and lying and raping. And the others that do that are going to get buried in the wilderness, and then they come into Israel. The passing under the rod, the shepherd uses the rod to make sure the sheep, when he brings them in at night, are all sheep, not goats, not wolves, not, hound dogs or whatever, okay? All right. As for you, O house of Israel, thus saith the Lord God, go you, serve you, every one his idols, and hereafter, if you will not hearken unto me, but pollute you my holy name no more, with your gifts and with your idols. For in my holy mountain, in the mountain of the height of Israel, saith the Lord God, there shall all the house of Israel, all of them, all of them are back. All of them in the land shall serve me. There will I accept them. There will I require your offerings. Those are and first fruits of your oblation with all your holy things. This is all the stuff the churches all say are done away with. It's right in here. Except, what's the word except? Ritzah. It's Strong's number 7521. To be pleased with, favored. Let's see what Strong says. It specifically means to satisfy a debt. So is God going to make a minister who's not a Kohanim or a priest, who's not in Israel, preach and use him? That's why you're getting garbage teaching all across the board, and you're just getting this stuff because I happen to be willing. I have studied 40-something years. I am filled with the Holy Spirit. I am a Kohanim, and I am in Israel. And you don't like it, I'm sorry. Look what you get. You get a busted up old man with a busted up chair and 2 iPads and doing things by myself with no staff, no sound studio, no $5,000 microphone, no lighting, no editing. You know, hey, what about John the Baptist? What did Yeshua say? What did you go out to do? See a guy with, soft clothing? Broad and wide is the road to destruction, and many find it. Straight and narrow is the path, and few find it. Now, you know about the second Exodus. Now let's talk about Gog and Magog and show you what kind of crap they're teaching you about Gog and Magog. Oh, it's real. It happens. I'm looking for some scriptures. This thing's too bright. I got to turn it down. I don't know what happened to it. It got very bright. There we go. Ezekiel 38:8. After many days thou shalt be visited in the latter years, thou shalt come into the land that is brought back from the sword, and is gathered out of many people against the mountains of Israel, which have been always waste, but it brought forth out of the nations, and even they shall dwell safely, all of them. So does it sound today like we're delivered from the sword, brought back from the sword, and we're dwelling safely? You'd have to be a moron to pitch that to people, okay? Then in verse 11 it says, and thou shalt say, I will go up to the land of unwalled villages. I will go to them that are at rest, that dwell safely, all of them, dwelling without walls and having neither bars nor gates, to take a spoil, to take a prey, to turn thy hand upon the desolate places that are now inhabited, and upon the people that are gathered out of the nations. So the second Exodus happened, which have gotten cattle and goods, that dwell in the midst of the land. Sheba and Dedan, and the merchants of Tarshish with all the young lions, they shall say unto thee, art thou come to take a spoil? Hast thou gathered thy company to take a prey, to carry away silver and gold, to take away cattle and goods, to take away a great spoil. 2.5 million out of the 9.6 million people living in Israel live at the poverty line. That's what that piece of garbage Netanyahu does to us. Okay, this can't be now. Oh, they say, well, no, it's building up to it. The man of sin's going to come here and do the 7-year thing. Are you kidding me? I mean, we just showed you that's not what's going to happen. I mean, the man of sin sets up in Pergamos, the beast. That's where he sets up his shop, not in Israel. Let me go through I'm not going to go through all of prophecy to Revelation 22. We'll be here forever, but I'll show you some things why not only do we have to be in peace without bars, walls, and safety and have riches for this to happen, but also we need to all be back here. And I'll show you that. What are you scratching on your bed for? What are you digging for gold or something? I gotta look for the verse. I'm sorry, I gotta scroll through it. In verse Ezekiel 39:22, it says, this is kind of after the battle is over. So the house of Israel shall know that I am Jehovah, Elohim. I'm Jehovah, their God, from that day and forward. That's the house of Israel. Those are the 10 tribes. They're already back in the land when this happens. There's the house of Judah, Levi, and Judah, and then there's the house of Israel, who's not here now. They're here. Okay? So not only do you have to have the wealth and the riches, you have to have living in peace and safety, you have to have the second Exodus. And to get the second Exodus, you need to have the land back, but we'll get to that. And the next verse, 23 of Ezekiel 39, and the heathen shall know that the house of Israel went into captivity for her iniquity, lawlessness, because they trespassed against me. Therefore hid I my face from them, and gave them into the hands of their enemies. So fell they all by the sword. That's Hosea 6:1 and 2 is a 2,000-year punishment, a double punishment. Now we get a double reward. According to their uncleanness and according to their transgressions, have I done unto them and hid my face from them. Therefore, he's no longer turning us over to our enemies anymore. That's why you're seeing Hamas dying in good amounts every day. Uh-huh. It says in verse 29 of Ezekiel 39, neither will I hide my face any more from them, for I have poured out my spirit upon the house of Israel, saith Adonai Jehovah. So we got to get the land back, and that's called Greater Israel. It goes, remember, from the Euphrates to the Nile. It's about 100 times bigger. We got to get it back. And where do we see that? We see that in what is the next battle for Israel, but they never teach it to you because they're scared of it. Because they know they're Satanists, and they know these false teachers, false pastors, false prophecy conference guys, and false prophets and the book authors, they know they're all Satan bots, and they know God knows it. Okay, in Zechariah 12, what do we see? Behold, I will make Jerusalem a cup of trembling unto all the people round about, when they shall be in the siege, both against Judah and against Jerusalem. No Israel, 10 tribes, not here, just Judah and Jerusalem. That's now. And in that day will I make Jerusalem a burdensome stone for all people. All that burden themselves with it shall be cut in pieces. Though all the people of the earth, it doesn't say that. It says the goyim. The word is not people, it's goyim. Heathen of the earth. It could be the earth or the land. Be gathered together against it. In that day, saith Jehovah, I will smite every horse with astonishment. And I will open mine eyes upon the house of Judah, and will smite every horse of the people with blindness. And the governors of Judah shall say in their heart, the inhabitants of Jerusalem shall be my strength in Jehovah of hosts, their God. So that means at this time, the inhabitants of Jerusalem, there's a heavy amount of believers there, which is not the case today, not even close. In that day will I make the governors of Judah. Now, the word governors means chiefs. It really means judges, because in Isaiah 1, God says he's going to run Israel again with the judges. So it says, in that day will I make the judges of Judah like an earth of fire among the wood. Now, an earth of fire among the wood. Wake up. Who do you know has fire coming out of their mouth but the two witnesses? To be a judge, you got to be a prophet. The two witnesses are prophets. Wake up. Get this down. It's easy. It's not hard. And like a torch of fire in a sheaf. So he says it twice. Let's read it again. In that day will I make the judges of Judah like an earth of fire among the wood, and like a torch of fire in a sheaf. He says it twice because there's two of them. And they shall devour all the people round about on the right hand and on the left. Those are the people that were surrounding Judah and Jerusalem. They burn them up. That's why your pastors, your demonic pastors, don't want you to know this is here. They want you to think the two witnesses show up at the tribulation. Can't be any more wrong than that. And I'll show you more. The Lord shall save the tents of Judah first. Okay, so there's a great victory. Now, he shows up, you see it again. Malachi 3. Behold, I will send my Malach. Remember that word? We talked about it a moment ago. And he shall prepare the way before me. And Jehovah whom you seek shall suddenly come to his... the Lord, not Jehovah, the Lord, Adonai, that's the glory of God of Israel, shall suddenly come to his temple. Even the Malach, or the messenger of the covenant, whom ye delight in, behold, he shall come, saith Jehovah of hosts. That's Elijah. The Elijah is one of the two witnesses. The Elijah and Apostle John, who's still here. But who may abide in the day of his coming? And who shall stand when he appeareth? For he is like a refiner's fire, and like a fuller's soap. And he shall sit as a refiner and purifier of silver, and shall purify the sons of Levi, and purge them as gold and silver, that they may offer unto Jehovah an offering in righteousness. Then shall the offering of Judah and Jerusalem, still just this little country now, be pleasant unto the Lord, as in the days of old, as in the former years. So now we're following the law with the offerings correctly. Boom, the blessings of the law are coming on us now. Yeshua never promised us the blessings of the law. That comes only when you follow the law. Here it is. And I will come near to you to judgment, and I will be a swift witness against the sorcerers, and against the adulterers, and against false swearers, against those that oppress the hireling in his wages, and the widows and the fatherless, and that turn aside the stranger from his right, and fear not me, saith Jehovah of hosts. For I am Jehovah, I change not. Therefore you sons of Yaakov are not consumed. From the days of your fathers you are gone away from mine ordinances, and have not kept them. Return unto me, and I will return unto you, saith Jehovah of armies. But you said, wherein shall we return? Will a man rob God? Yet you robbed me. But you say, wherein have we robbed thee? In tithes and offerings. See, that's part of the gospel that a lot of people don't pay attention to. That's called covetousness, by the way. You are cursed with a curse, for you have robbed me, even this whole nation. So when they don't do the offerings, God considers it robbing him. Why? Because he puts a guy to work for him to deliver his messages and do this, so forth. And then the people receive the fruits of this guy's work and labor, but don't want to reciprocate with offerings. And that's not just robbing the guy, it's robbing God. And you are cursed with the curse, for you have robbed me, even this whole nation. You hear people, they say, well, I'm so poor I can't even pay attention. And you know what? Next year they're even poorer or just as poor. Bring you all the tithes into the storehouse, that there may be meat in my house, and prove me now herewith, saith the Lord of hosts, if I will not open up the windows of heaven and pour you out a blessing, that there shall not be room enough to receive it. See, they don't have faith. That's why they don't give. They think they're in the gospel and they're not. They think they're believers. They fool themselves. They like to listen, absorb information, and things like this, but they won't give. They're covetous. That's a bad sin. They rob God. Okay? And they'll find excuses for not giving. Tons of them. The woman gave her last penny, the mites, Yeshua said, and she gave more than everybody else. So it's not a question. I mean, for your own sake, cast your bread upon the waters, and then when you need them, you'll have them. When there's tragedy coming to Europe and the United States any day now, and these people are going to fall apart. They reap what they sow. They don't get it. They rob God. How many people you think are going to be in heaven that rob God all the time? You got any idea? That there may be meat in my house, and prove me now herewith, saith the Lord of hosts, if I will not open you the windows of heaven and pour you out a blessing, that there shall not be room enough to receive it. The people don't believe this. And that's why they don't give offerings. If they did, they'd give offerings. They don't believe it. Most of them don't believe it. Straight and narrow is the way, if you be to find it. They're not really in the gospel. And I will rebuke the devourer for your sakes. That's not Satan. That's the locusts, palmer worms, cankerworms, caterpillars, that eats the crops. And he shall not destroy the fruits of your ground. Neither shall your vine cast her fruit before the time in the field, saith Jehovah of hosts. And all nations shall call you blessed, For you shall be a delightsome land, saith the Lord of hosts. But it's all based on the offerings. They don't get it. Your words have been stout against me, saith the Lord. Yet you say, what have we spoken so much against thee? You have said, it is vain to serve God. And what profit is it that we have kept his ordinance and that we have walked mournfully before the Lord of hosts? And now we call the proud happy, yea, they work wickedness and are set up, yea, they are they that tempt God are even delivered. Then they that feared the Lord spake often one to another, sounds like you guys, and the Lord hearkened and heard, and a book of remembrance was written before him for them that feared the Lord and that thought upon his name, book of life. And they shall be mine, saith the Lord of hosts, in that day when I make up my jewels, and I will spare them as a man spareth his own son that serveth him. Then shall you return and discern, return where? To Israel, and discern between the righteous and the wicked, and between him that serveth God and him that serveth him not. Those days are right around the corner. Let me go in the chat, see if we got any questions. Well, I don't see any questions up there that I haven't dealt with. I don't know if the chat's working. I gotta check. The chat maybe needs tweaking so I can read it. Let's see. Try it again. Oh, there we are. I got more messages I need to see. Okay, hold on. Let me go through them. No, the government didn't give up on getting the hostages back. They don't really know where they are, in my opinion. Are there unwalled villages in Israel? Usually you see walls or gates. The ships of Tarshish will bring the people, which will probably bring things with them. There is no scripture that says give 10% in free will offerings. There's a thing when you're dealing with the law, it's more prescribed, but there is no 10%. It's a free will offering. God loveth one with a good cheerful giver. It's up to you. What about Canada? Well, Canada's not the daughter of Babylon. But it's one of the nations that God scattered the Jews into, so they'll be destroyed based on that. Oh, I don't know what. Canada does not have much of a role in this thing with the daughter of Babylon, okay? It's not America. It's not guilty of what America did, okay? You got a rotten Trudeau over there and stuff like that, but it's not the same thing. The enemy goes to Alaska, it appears, and drops in through Canada, but Canada can't stop them. Trudeau probably doesn't even try. He probably works with them. That's it is what it is. Um, but when they come out of America, it should be the same time as the second Exodus, more or less. It could be months apart, but more or less. Okay. So I basically got through what I wanted to get through today. So I'm Moshe, my wife's Rivka. Hold on a second. Don't know what this is. Yes. Yeah. Mise. Anybody there? I don't know what it was. Wait a minute. That could be a delivery guy out there. Better call back. Hello? 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 Yeah. Mise. Mise. Hello? Hello? Hold on. That was the UPS guy. Should I get in, Chief? Where's that Yaffa? You look like the woolly mammoth. All right. I guess somebody's phone wasn't working. It's either my phone wasn't working or his phone wasn't working. I'll reboot my phone for a minute. Something was wrong. Anyway, we'll find out. I'll call some friends of mine. All right, so there you have it. Let's see, we got some questions. No, it's not. The Psalm 83 is not a war. Psalm 83 is a prayer by a guy named Asaph, who was a prophet. And the countries do not match what goes on in Zechariah 12, which is the greater Israel countries. So, greater Israel is composed of, to the left-hand side, for those geographically challenged, or the West, for those not so challenged, wested in the Euphrates, Turkey, Iraq, and Syria. All of Lebanon, all of Kuwait, Qatar, Bahrain, what do they call it, Abu Dhabi, UAE, Saudi Arabia, Oman, Yemen, which is called Temen in the Bible. If you ever see Temen and you wonder what it is, it's Yemen. And it also includes going over to the other side of the Red Sea. Oh, also all of Jordan. Jordan is Ammon, Edom, and Moab. And then you go to Egypt, to the right or the east of the Nile, Sudan, South Sudan, Ethiopia, Eritrea, Somalia, Djibouti, and parts of Kenya and Uganda. All of this has only the land that's to the east or the right-hand side of the Nile River. The Nile River goes down to Lake Victoria. It's about 100 times bigger than Israel. These are mostly the countries that'll be attacking Israel, along with some others. Okay? Because it says he burns them up on the right hand and the left. That's what I think it is, because it appears that's when we get the land back. Because they're not in there. Now, there's many, many scriptures that support this. But Psalm 83 doesn't match these countries, and it doesn't match Gog and Magog. Gog and Magog is called the Great Day of the Lord. If you want to learn more about Gog and Magog, read Ezekiel chapters 8 to 11, which the church will never teach you, because those that are grievous over the injustices in Jerusalem have a mark placed on their forehead, and nothing bad happens to them. Perhaps you read about marks and foreheads in Revelation. And it talks about the image of jealousy set up, and it's set up in the northern gate between the inner and outer courtyard, never in the holiest of holies. Okay? Never there. And it's in Zechariah 14, where you see them go into captivity, but a lot of them just stay in Jerusalem during this attack. And the one whose feet touch on the Mount of Olives is the glory of God of Israel. You see it very clearly when he leaves the temple in Ezekiel 11. He stands on the Mount of Olives, and then he waits for the attack. And, I can't, I'm an old man. If I sit here, I'd be here for 4 more hours or 6 hours. And you don't want to, the videos get too big and they're too encumberly to fast forward and stuff like that. Any other place you can go to that's safe? No, all the nations that he dispersed the Israelites to will be destroyed. So if you could figure out a country he did never disperse the Israelites into, then maybe you'd be safe there. I don't know which countries. You basically, you only help the poor, the widow, and all that inside the camp. You worry about the believers that are this way, not the unbelievers, not the ones that are that way because they're shooting heroin or worshiping unclean spirits or doing astrology. You don't worry about them. It's in the camp first, the believers. That's who you worry about. Okay? And the offerings is an obligation, you know. I don't know why this just did this, but okay, so that's basically how it works. All right. So today I think we're going to try to find replacements for my Tabasco sauce. I think I still have a little left in here. I do. I'm even having trouble getting tomato juice. Now I'm going to start looking for V8 juice too. I might be able to find some of that. Then I could spice it up with pepper, lime, cayenne, maybe make it good. What I think the supermarkets do is every few months they bring in a container full of this stuff and they distribute it amongst their stores, and then when it's out of stock they order another container, and it takes 5 to 6 months. So I wish that wasn't the case, but it is. All right, I had this thing close because the battery's running dead. So I'm Moshe, my wife's Rivka. Please pray for us. Pray for our animals and pets, the world rescues, that they be happy, healthy, and whole. Pray for no rockets to come into Israel from anywhere. And offering information's in the description box. We take Patreon and GoFundMe. My email address is at the bottom line down in the description box. And pray for the peace of Yerushalayim. I hope you got something out of this video. And if you could subscribe to the channel. You can go through my channel, go to the channel, the homepage of the channel, so to speak, and then look under the live section of my videos. They're not under videos, they're under the live section. Of course, I do them as live streams. Oh, that stuff was hot. I love it. People were suggesting I have the stuff shipped in from other countries. Well, it costs a fortune to do that. It would be like that bottle I was just drinking out of. If I ordered 6 bottles of that, it'd probably be $150 in shipping. It's a little stupid. Okay, guys, I'm out. Thank